Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Quianna Canada, and I hope you're having an excellent Saturday. I know that I am. So, I want to tell you how I spent my Friday before we get into today's topic, because it's going to be a very somber topic. So, I kind of want to, bring some brightness to it before we get into today's topic. And so yesterday was Friday and all the classes were closed. So the university was closed, we didn't have class. And not only that, but all the businesses were closed. And the reason why all the businesses were closed was because it was a notice. So there was a warning, a wind warning. And so I was like, I can't believe they're closing everything down because of wind. That does not make sense to me. And so of course, I didn't leave the house yesterday. I stayed in, and when I looked out my window, I didn't see anybody walking down the street. And it's quite interesting because the street that I live on is very busy and people are always walking down the street, but I didn't see anyone. So I was like, oh my God, this wind warning must be very serious. And so later in the night, what I did was I scrolled down on my Facebook, and I think I seen a couple of news articles as well. And there was a picture of this business, and the windows were shattered and broken, and there was glass, and the office was in disarray. And I was shocked. And I don't know if a tree actually broke into the business and shattered the window. I didn't see any branches, and nor did I see a tree. But I'm surprised that wind was that strong to create that kind of damage. And so I can see why everyone took it very seriously. And so how I spent my day yesterday, because of course I didn't go out, was I spent my day actually sleeping. Like slept most of the day, and that's why I'm up early this morning, because I actually got some amazing sleep throughout the day. And I also spent part of my day doing a lot of research and a lot of reading. And the reading that I did is going to tie into today's topic, what we are going to be talking about today. Just a moment. Let me get some hand cream. Yes. Okay. Yes. So basically, all the readings that I did is what we are actually going to be discussing today. It is going to be a somber topic. And so I'm going to do my best to try and get through everything. And I want to apologize that if I don't get through everything, and I'm going to do my best to. So this video, ladies and gentlemen, is coming before the International Day for the commemoration, or of the commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. Now, if we remember, if you have been following the headlines, there have been a number of anti-Semitic incidents in the United States. There have been some incidents that have been perceived as anti-Semitic, some incidents were anti-Semitic. And so we are going to cover a couple of those. Now, it's important to understand that in this video, I'm going to be giving my honest comment on the incidents that I will be covering. Now, my opinion, I need to warn you that it's really not going to go with the status quo. My opinion is going to diverge, I think, from the status quo. Howsoever, this is my honest comment. Any commentary in this video is not an incitement to hate, nor is it an incitement to violence. This is an evaluation over on the events that are happening within the United States from an American citizen. I'm an American citizen, from somebody that is actually looking at these events from afar in a foreign country. And so I'm going to do my best to give a fair assessment of these critical incidents that I'm witnessing in the United States and give some fair commentary on these incidents. And so the first incident, ladies and gentlemen, so this is going to actually tie into the broader topic that we're going to be speaking about, is an incident where Elon Musk gesticulated and uh, did a hand gesture that appeared to be a Nazi salute to many people in the Jewish community. Now, when I saw the salute or the hand gesture, I automatically thought that it was a Nazi salute as well. And I did my due diligence to actually do some homework on this particular hand salute, did some research on it, and it looked uncannily similar to some of the salutes that were actually really Nazi salutes. It was the same way, the chest first, then hand out. And so what I did, ladies and gentlemen, is that I actually condemned this salute that Elon Musk did because I felt very uncomfortable when I saw it. And when I saw it, I thought that it was, in my personal opinion, when I first saw it, it registered to me as a Nazi salute. Now I do understand that the director of the CEO, of ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, did not condemn that Nazi salute, or he didn't perceive it as a Nazi salute. But just because he didn't perceive it as a Nazi salute doesn't mean that I don't have to perceive it as one. I perceived it as one, and I wrote a statement condemning it. I posted that statement on my Facebook account. I will upload that statement to my Substack account, and I will attach it to this video. Now, we're going to get into today's incident. Now, the reason why I actually condemned that salute that Elon Musk did was because it was televised and it was on a video and it was perceptible to me. And when I compared that with other televised salutes that were perceptible to me, they looked very similar. And therefore, to reiterate, it registered to me as a Nazi salute, which was, uh, contrary to, uh, you know, preserving an environment that is tolerant. And so when I seen that registered to me as an intolerant hand symbol, and I condemned it. Now, it's important to understand that there has been a serious incident that took place in, I believe it's called Antioch High School. And just a moment. There's something I want to say about that, but I'm trying to find it. Yes. Okay. So there was a disturbing incident that took place in Antioch, or took place in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was at Antioch High School. And ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about this topic, I want to be sensitive because we must keep in mind that there are children involved. And so there are victims involved, and more importantly, there, like, to reiterate, there are children involved. And so what the children experienced on that day was very serious, and it must be condemned, but we must also be very cognizant of ensuring that we're not triggering any children um, with our words. And so, although this is going to be a very educational and candid video, like, I am trying to keep in mind that this was an incident that took place at a high school. And so, before I get into the details of this particular incident, I want to tell you why I'm not giving commentary on an image that had the perpetrator and a gesture. And the reason why I'm not giving commentary on that image is because, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, we are living in the digital age. I'm very cognizant that we are living in the digital age. And not only am I cognizant that we are living in the digital age, is that, oh my God, okay. Not only am I very cognizant that we are living in the digital age, but I'm very cognizant that images can be manipulated, and not only can they be manipulated, but they can be photoshopped and cropped and fixed to fix a particular or to put forward a particular narrative. And so, ladies and gentlemen, when I comment on specific incidents, I actually go through a vetting process of how I will talk about particular issues. And one of the vetting process is there a video that matches what I'm seeing in a photo? And if there's not a video that matches what I'm seeing in the photo, then I don't give commentary on it because I understand that pictures can be manipulated, pictures can be photoshopped, people's head can be put on images, and therefore, because I'm aware of that, I don't give commentary on it. And like I'm not giving commentary on that particular incident, I am consistent in my approach because there was a similar incident in Worcester where a white supremacist was jailed for doing a salute. Allegedly, he was photographed allegedly doing a salute, and I didn't cover the story because I couldn't confirm the authenticity of the photograph or the individual's ideology. So, like, I didn't actually do any commentary on that photograph. I didn't condemn it. I didn't say anything about it. I and it's not because I am condoning it. It's just that I can't verify the authenticity of it. So I'm not giving any commentary on any photographs because, to reiterate, I don't know if these photographs have been uh, cropped and someone's head has been placed on them. I don't know if this is AI. I'm not sure if this is Photoshop. I don't know. So because I don't know, I'm not giving commentary on any photographs. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, there, as you know, that was a disturbing incident that took place. There were, I think, two people that lost their lives, and during this incident, I believe that the suspect, and in this video, from this point forward, I am going to be using the word body in replacement of the suspect because I haven't seen any video coming out from the family giving any information. And because I know that there has been a lot of propaganda lately in the United States, I am unsure as to whether or not this is a propaganda tool. It appears to me to be a propaganda tool. It has all the earmarks of a propaganda tool. And so I'm going to be using the word body. So the habeas corpus, bring me the body. I need a body in front of me to tell me exactly what's happening. I need the parents to sit in front of a conference and give their story about what happened. I need some friends. I need some classmates. I need a body in front of me. Habeas corpus, bring me the body. And without a body, I am not going to be uh, really humanizing uh, this specific body because I don't know if it's a real situation. And so let's go ahead and get into that. But treating it as real, treating it as a real body, uh, assuming that this is a real incident and a real body, I really want to talk about the the body in this particular situation. Ladies and gentlemen, argued in allegedly a manifesto that a few people he was moved by a few people, and so he seemed to be persuaded by a few people. Now he lists a few people in the manifesto, ladies and gentlemen, and so a couple of those people that he named was Candace Owens. He named Destiny. He named um, Mr. Beast. He named Nick Fuentes. He named a list of people. And going deeply into this alleged manifesto, the suspect argued that he was most inspired by Candace Owens. And ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to actually go into the statement that he said because a lot of people are already doing that. But what I will give you is my honest comment on it. And as you know, like I disagree with 95% of the commentary of Candace Owens. I disagree with her position on LGBTQ rights, especially trans rights. I disagree with Candace Owens on racial issues, Black American issues. You know, our opinions diverge when it comes to Jewish people. And ladies and gentlemen, with that said, although I disagree with 95% of what Candace talks about, I do watch her show periodically and whenever she uploads a video. And I watch her show because I think that Candace Owens is a very articulate woman and she is able to reason in most instances, although we don't like her commentary. Like, I don't like a lot of the things that she talks about. Like, I disagree with her. She can formulate a sound argument. Not only that, ladies and gentlemen, is Candace Owens is knowledgeable it, as someone who is, how can I say, an autodidact, right? She is a very self taught woman because you understand that there was a point where she was enrolled in school and then she actually decided to leave school. And that period when she decided to leave and then that continuation up until this point is all self-taught, and that is to be commended. Anybody who is teaching themselves and educating themselves, I think that that is a very commendable act. And so with that said, I personally, ladies and gentlemen, do not believe that this manifesto is legitimate. I think it is a fabricated manifesto to try and attach names and to push a narrative. And so that we're going to be talking about the narrative that's being pushed, but I think it was a fake, fabricated, manufactured manifesto. And we need to be, we need to really reason about this particular situation. For instance, ladies and gentlemen, I watch Candace Owens, and a lot of her commentary is very girly. It's very girly. So, like, she's talking about like celebrity news, celebrity gossip, and how can one be radicalized by that? Visit her channel. You're going to see a lot of celebrity news and celebrity gossip. And yes, she does dabble in politics, but there's a fair balance there, right? And most of the topics that I really get a sense that Candace really likes to talk about are those girly topics, such as like these celebrity issues when it comes to relationships. Like she's always talking about like Justin Bieber and uh, these trials that are involving celebrity and their relationships, and how can one be radicalized by that? How can one be driven to extreme violence by that? Ask yourself that question. I watch Candace all the time, and yes, she is harsh on Black Americans. And I disagree with her 100%. Yes, she is harsh on a lot of other groups. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I disagree with her there as well. But one thing that I have not heard Candace Owens say in any of her videos is a call to violence against a specific group. And if you feel that I'm wrong about this, I welcome you to contact me or share a video with me. And if you do that and I'm wrong, then I will make a correction. But in the videos that I have seen, I have not seen a call to violence, nor have I seen a call to hate. I haven't seen a call to attack a specific group of people. Now she has a very strong opinion about specific groups of people, and those opinions are hers to own as a human being, an autonomous human being who has freedom of speech. And do I disagree with her? To reiterate, yes, I do. But just because she has strong opinions that I disagree with, that doesn't give me the right or anyone else the right to say that or it doesn't give me or anyone else in this world. And so, who had ever did that to her, to attach her name to a manifesto to say that she is responsible for radicalizing a young man. And so I want to read you, ladies and gentlemen, what Candace Owens said. So this was the commentary that Candace Owens posted on X. She said, "It is truly sickening that people would use the unalivement of a young 16-year-old girl to try to quickly score points, political points, rather than to responsibly make sure that what they are sharing is accurate. Regarding the alleged manifesto, it is an obvious troll. How can you tell? Because the deranged individual plagiarized the exact same language from the Christchurch, New Zealand manifesto, combined with other manifestos and writings freely available on the web. In essence, it is a plagiarized document. It would take 4 seconds of adult thinking and or journalistic integrity to recognize that this is a troll. On your left, language from the alleged Christchurch manifesto from 2019. On your right, language from the alleged leaked manifesto circulating today. And so basically what she's doing is she's showing like articles of that manifesto from Christchurch, and then the article that part of the manifesto that mentions her name. She's showing like side by side snippets of both where they are using her name and they appear to be the same. And she says also, she said, that is how it is plausible that both Candace, so she mentions herself, and Mr. Beast clearly do not share the same politics, wind up in once again in the same manifesto. It also explains why this individual, despite his numerous accounts, never followed Candace or Mr. Beast on his social media accounts. She said, this is a deranged troll that is, at least in part, due to the unalivement of journalism. Copycats know that they can gain traction but just by mentioning what they perceive to be big names, because the media will push those names for clicks. Okay, so let's dive deeply into that. I'm not really sure if Candace is calling the perpetrator a deranged individual or if she is calling this actual person who is trying to attach this manifesto to her, this person that she is calling a troll, deranged individual. It's not immediately clear. But at any rate, I agree with Candace in the that the I agree with Candace that these are identical. Both manifestos are identical. And I also agree that what I think happened, ladies and gentlemen, is I think that someone from the US government within intelligence or um, people within the military, I think that what happened, ladies and gentlemen, either the Central Intelligence Agency or some other intelligence agency or some military agency with intelligence, what I think happened was they used that Christchurch manifesto to attach Candace's name on this fabricated and manufactured manifesto that is being circulated around on social media. And that gets us into uh, what I think is happening, ladies and gentlemen, is stochastic terrorism. And so, what is stochastic terrorism? Well, stochastic terrorism is the use of mass media to provoke random acts of ideologically motivated violence that are statistically predictable but individually unpredictable. And there has been a couple of journal articles that I have read. Just a moment. So there has been a couple of journal articles on the topic, and there's not been much scholarly research on stochastic terrorism. I think that this is one of those under researched areas. But I think what's important to understand by this is that stochastic terrorism, what it does is it involves intent and normativity. And so it's all about an attempt to cause chaos and to mark a particular person for abuse. And so I want to kind of read you something. Just a moment. So there's been a couple of authors that have written on the topic. So one author, his name is James Angovy, or James Angove or Angovy, and there's also Molly Aman and J. Reed Malloy, and they actually write about this. And I think what's important to understand is that when we are talking about this, uh, w- I think what's pertinent about stochastic terrorism is that it is an incitement to imminent lawless action, ladies and gentlemen. And this can happen both ways. So, for example, authority figures can attach Candace's name to this manifesto in hopes that the public will attack her, either physically, mentally, emotionally, to cause some harm. Or authorities can commit a state crime, such as what I believe happened at Antioch High School. Authorities can commit a state crime, and when they commit that crime, there is a particular profile that the public is seeing, and so it's like this folk devil of, you know, so basically the intelligence agencies are creating a folk devil, right? And that folk devil is causing moral panic. So the public is saying, okay, well, this person is dangerous, a threat to national security, and therefore we need to be on the lookout and we need to be on the watch of this person. And I think that that is what is happening, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't think that. Okay, I want to go into this deeply. This was a young man that was at I think he was in high school, I believe so. And remember, at the start of this video, I said I need to be very sensitive about this because this involves children. This was a young man who was impressionable. And what I don't know if these rumors are true. One can only wait to see because uh, before I get into that, I want to say that there are rumors that are going around that this person did not like his skin color, did not like being black, and that he really had a dislike and disdain for blacks. Now, all of that was written in the manifesto. I don't know if that is legitimate or if that is even accurate. And so there are a couple questions that I ask myself when I am trying to make a decision on how to interpret this situation. So, do we have a bot? Excuse me. Excuse me. So, do we have a body? Habeas corpus, bring us the body. The answer to that question is I don't see a body, and I don't see any parents coming out. And what I mean by parents is I don't see this individual's parents giving any statements, and maybe they're not ready to, right? So I'll have to uh, concede that this is probably difficult for them right now, and they're probably not ready to give a statement, a public statement. And so the second question is, does the body have a family? And again, that answers what I just said, is that perhaps yes, of course, but that person is that family is probably not ready to speak. This is a horrific time for them. And so if this body does exist, it's conceivable that the family would not be ready to speak right now because it's a very painful time for them. What is the family saying about the body? So again, the family hasn't been able to really speak about this particular issue because if this is a legitimate issue and this person is real, then the family would be in a lot of pain right now and they wouldn't want to be speaking. The next question that I ask is, what are the friends saying about the body, right? What are the friends saying about this person who is now unalived? And we have yet to hear from any of those people. What are strangers saying about the body? So in life, you meet strangers, you run across strangers. Strangers sometimes have conversations with you and sometimes engage in discourse or dialogue. What are they saying about the body? And to be honest, we haven't had any, um, there hasn't been a production of people to come out and speak. What is the body saying about itself? Well, of course, the body can't speak because the body is unalived. But what is the body saying about itself in a video? Now, for me to make an informed decision about placing blame on any specific groups of people or placing blame on the body, excuse me, and let me break that down. Yes, I do condemn this attack, but for me to place blame, I need to understand the story. And a manufactured manifesto that's circulating online is not going to get me to understand the story, nor is a couple of hit pieces in the news that are that are not well researching the issues, but they're actually just trying to put up a headline so that people can actually read it very fast. That's not going to get me to adopt a specific narrative about a body. To reiterate, What is the body saying about himself? Are there any videos of the body talking about Candace Owens, saying that Candace Owens is radicalizing him? Are there any YouTube posts or Facebook posts, Instagram posts, TikTok posts with the body speaking and the body articulating that the body feels this way about himself? Where is that? Because obviously this person had a lot of social media accounts, but where are the videos of this person speaking out in the way that he had spoke out about? Where are these videos? I want to see these videos. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking this approach, and you're going to notice that my approach is different from the approach that I have with the men in the military, because these are grown men, ladies and gentlemen, and they have a level of responsibility. And and actually, to tell you the truth, these are men who know right from wrong. And these are men that are in the military and have been trained. And so there is little likelihood that these men are impressionable. But when you have a teenager, ladies and gentlemen, who is starting to identify and find himself, excuse me, find his place in the world and to try and find his identity, that can be shaped in a number of ways. And so I will raise that question again, is what is the body saying about himself? In order for me to make an informed judgment on the body, I need to see a YouTube video. To reiterate, I need to see a YouTube video that matches this alleged manifesto. I need to see a TikTok video that is matching this alleged manifesto. I need to see uh, proof. And the proof that I need to see is um, not documentary proof, not like written proof, because anybody can write that online. The best evidence, ladies and gentlemen, you understand there's the best evidence rule. The best evidence is, in this particular case, is video evidence. The best evidence is a TikTok video. Because if this person watched Candace Owens and has multiple social media accounts and was very active on social media, it only makes sense that they possibly uploaded a video here and there of themselves telling us how that person feels. If the person would go out and take alleged photos of himself and upload those photos online, it only makes sense that that person would actually take, upload a video of himself with matching what we are seeing in the manifesto and matching what we're seeing in this alleged video, this alleged manifesto and this alleged photograph. And so I'll raise the question one more time. What is the body saying about himself? I don't believe, and I'm going to say this again, I don't believe that that manifesto is a legitimate one. I just don't. I think that this is a manufactured manifesto put out by either the military or either the United States intelligence agencies to put a particular narrative in front of the people. And I want to reiterate that I don't think that this person was persuaded in any way by Candace Owens, because Candace Owens is not adopting a violent. Her rhetoric is her rhetoric is how can I say? Her rhetoric borders on shocking the conscience of the American people and maybe people abroad, but it is not an incitement to violence. So, in the 1969 case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the landmark case of Brandenburg versus Ohio, holding that speech has no such protection when it intends to incite or produce imminent lawless action, and two, is likely, in fact, to do so. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen speech that does that. For example, I've seen Andrew Tate post, and I understand that Candace Owens is friends with Andrew Tate, but I have to be honest about what I see. I seen a, a post from Andrew Tate that was saying, that was speaking like that. He was like, uh, that Donald Trump should actually go to war with Europe and he should take it over. And he was very serious about it. He was like, you know, Donald Trump should invade Europe and invade Canada and take it over. That sounds like it's intended to incite and produce imminent lawless action, and is unlikely, in fact, to do so, because we understand that Donald Trump is talking about that, right? And so, why wasn't his name mentioned in the manifesto? If you are looking at Andrew Tate's content, I think it's more abrasive than what anything that Candace Owens could ever post. And so we need to ask ourselves, like, are intelligence agencies trying to shape our thoughts and opinions about specific individuals? Yes, we may not like what we hear on the internet. We might not like the people who is delivering the message, right? But that does not give the state the right to classify that message in a way that would bring harm to that person. And so with stochastic terrorism, what's harmful here is that actual violence is not required. It is the intent to incite violence. So when what I believe to be the United States, and again, this is what my honest comment, so this is not an incitement to violence to people to attack the United States government or any government official. But the only entities that have access to this information and that can shape the narrative are intelligence agencies, such as the Central Intelligence Agency and the FBI. No other organization can do that. And so, excuse me, but not by not telling us who radicalized that man, that young man, by just putting a photograph up of this person and not telling us exactly who indeed radicalized him. Because if what you're saying is true about him, if what you are saying is ultimately true, then this person was in circles where he found a home with white supremacist groups. And he was in circles where people were telling him that it was okay for him to feel the way that he felt about himself, if that was truly the way he felt. And people likely persuaded him to do the act that he did. Now, I'm going to ask more questions, and this helps me to come to an informed judgment about this particular issue. Where was the manifesto found? Was it found online? Because I think that's where people are saying it was found. It was found online. Did the suspect read it before, like, did he read it himself, like in a video before he was unalived? Can that manifesto be authenticated? And I mean, authenticated is, did authorities find it on his computer? Was it on his cell phone? Did he have a copy in his room? I mean, I believe he was probably still living with his parents. Did his parents see a copy of the manifesto in his house? No, they found this manifesto online. Is there evidence linking the body to the manifesto? Is the question. When he died, did he have it on him? Is there photographs from the crime scene that show that? Did the body share the impugned thoughts on any social media platforms? Do we see that? Can the body's thoughts be cross-referenced with thoughts shared on other social media platforms? Do we see that? Can the body's thoughts be authenticated by friends, family members, and schoolmates? Is anyone stepping forward to say that this is exactly how he felt? Were there warning signs? Did family members or friends or schoolmates, did they know in advance? Is there a pattern and a practice? The answer to the last question is no. There's not a pattern in a practice here. In this specific incident, there's not a pattern in a practice because we haven't seen this happen before. And so what we are coming to understand is that this is possibly the United States military or the FBI or the Central Intelligence Agency committing a state crime and trying to shape our opinions and our thoughts about specific groups of people. And so remember I said there is this interactionism, right? So was this suspect, was this body interacting with others? And I would argue, yes. In order to develop an ideology about himself like that, he had to have been within a group of people that was telling him that this was okay. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what I've been warning Black Americans about online. I've been listening to a lot of spaces, and there has been, these spaces are very toxic. And again, I don't have, excuse me, I don't have X. I deleted my X account, but some YouTubers upload these X spaces on YouTube, and I'm able to listen to it that way. And what I come to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that these spaces are extremely toxic. And in some of these spaces, what I notice is that there are anti-Black and anti-Jewish persons in these spaces. And there is a pattern and a practice where anti-Jewish persons are coming into these spaces, and they are trying to manipulate Black Americans into going against Jewish people. And so when they enter these spaces, they are speaking very negatively about our Jewish counterparts. Not only are they doing that, ladies and gentlemen, but they are also trying to make it appear as if that Black Americans and this other group of people, which are these white supremacists that are in these spaces, that we really have a common enemy. And no, we don't. And they are also trying to make it appear, ladies and gentlemen, as if that the Jews are the problem, and they're not. And that is what they've been saying, quote, it's really, they're trying to make it appear as if it's the Jews, but it's not, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get Black Americans to go against Jews so that Black Americans can be the fall person, to be the patsy for the kind of crimes that we have seen in Antioch or Antioch. And so again, interactionism, it is a theoretical approach which focuses on interactions between individuals as symbolic and linguistic exchanges and as a means of creative action. So who was the body interacting with? He had to have been interacting with someone. And how did he develop this ideology? Like, if this is legitimate, which I seriously doubt that the manifesto is legitimate, but let's, for the sake of argument, let's say that it is. He's not learning that from Black people. He's not learning that from Jewish people. This is coming from a group of people that have a lot of hate in their hearts. And I'm not saying that this is white people, but I believe that this is white nationalists or white supremacists that have indoctrinated that young man, and radicalized him. Let's think about this clearly. And this is what the United States government is leaving out, ladies and gentlemen. So the United States government is saying he's a lone wolf. But research doesn't support that argument. Research tends to support the idea, ladies and gentlemen, that when we see these incidents happen, that they are always a part of some larger network. And so I want to read something to you. Okay, so the first is pathway. So warning behavior is measured by late stage markers in behavior, including research, planning, preparation, and implementation of an attack. By the time these behaviors are occurring, the receiver of such persuasive language would likely have already decided that violence was the only solution to the perceived problem. He or she would intend to be violent and would be beginning to mobilize for such. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you can kind of see like that. That's like when we're talking about radicalization, that's like the first part. And yes, there is, if we're going off of the manifesto, we see that, right? Identification. This is warning behavior that is identified in the trap 18. And so basically it states that the person has a warrior mentality, closely associated with weapons, or military or law enforcement paraphernalia, ladies and gentlemen. So when we think about this, these people that are radicalized are closely associated with the military. They're closely associated with law enforcement and paraphernalia that are associated with these two groups. And yes, I understand that the suspect, this body, had paraphernalia on his person, but we don't see pictures of that, do we? We don't see images of that. Those images aren't posted online. We don't see that. So how do we know that that is true? Now, according to this, the identification is that they identify with previous attackers or assassins. Now, this person didn't identify with any previous attackers or assassins. He identified with Candace Owens, and Candace Owens is not an attacker or an assassin. In the context of the receiver characteristics of persuasive speech, excuse me, in the context of the receiver characteristics of persuasive speech implicating violence as the solution to the problem at hand, identification as a warrior or a soldier for a cause helps, immobilizing this violence. So to understand this is what happens. But it says, however, research has also found that fixation, another proximal warning behavior, which is defined as preoccupation with a person or cause, occurs 80% in these cases. Now, you could say, well, Quianna, he was preoccupied with Candace Owens. But Candace Owens didn't say, go attack a school. And I don't think that Candace Owens would ever say that. Candace Owens is a mother, ladies and gentlemen. She has, I think, three children, one on the way, four children. Her children are in school, and I don't think that Candace Owens would ever want anyone to go and attack a school. So then there's the last resort, the third proximal warning behavior, which separates attackers from non-attackers in the TRAP 18 research is defined as violent action time imperative. It is typically expressed in words or in deeds, final statements, or final acts. Where is this, ladies and gentlemen? Where are the final words? Where are the final acts? Like, can we see that online? Where is that online? Can we see that? Can we see it? Simply put, the subjective believes, excuse me, the subject believes that he must act violently, right? And in the context of an incitement to violence, such, it's a trigger, demagogic rhetoric or demagogic rhetoric. So the fact that the last resort behavior, compression, and urgency, let me see. Yeah, so you have a pathway, then you have the identification, and then you have the last resort. And some of these markers are attaching to this body, but then some aren't. And so when we're thinking about stochastic terrorism, it also involves, like I said, it also involves where there is an incitement to violence on a person like Candace or a person like a political figure. And so by mentioning Candace's name, there is this is what I think, ladies and gentlemen, is could unspiral in a number of ways. So one, people could be, you know, radicalized by that information and, regrettably and unfortunately, would try and attack Candace. That's one. Two, people, this could actually be a situation that creates a copycat. That's two. And three, that can cause violence against marginalized groups such as Black Americans. So we don't understand exactly what's going on in this case. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the only person that is saying that. I have done a lot of research before I made this video because I wanted to make sure that I got this right. And a lot of commentators online are saying that the pieces of the puzzle are just not adding up in these cases. Ladies and gentlemen, when the pieces of the puzzle don't add up, we can almost put our money on that the state is behind these attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, in this day and age, it is not unlikely or uncommon for this to happen. There have been a number of instances where young, impressionable boys have been radicalized by the state and adopted a radicalized point of view and adopted an ideology and perpetrated attacks that we have seen in Antioch for believing that they would be some part of a greater cause or be part of a group of a group that likes them or a group that appreciates them. And ladies and gentlemen, when you think about it, this is disturbing to have a group online, even and when we think about it, to have authority figures, to have the state online pushing people into radicalization to commit acts of violence like this. That's deeply disconcerting. Now, that's not to say, ladies and gentlemen, that this person didn't have thoughts of committing acts like this himself. Maybe these thoughts crossed his mind and he was ruminating on them. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that he had cheerleaders online that was cheerleading him and egging him on to do this. And so where are they? Because they're also responsible for that. And I don't think it's the names that we are seeing in this alleged manifesto. I think it is state agents, because state agents are very skilled at pushing people over the brink like this. Okay, watch Candace's content. Is she saying anything like that? Is Mr. Beast saying anything like that? So how can he be radicalized by Mr. Beast? I mean, could he be envious at Mr. Beast? Yes, he could be envious at Mr. Beast. But could he Mr. Beast doesn't make content that is about radicalization. And so there's a lot in this particular story that's not lining up because we're not seeing a progression of self-hate in this case, or we're not seeing a progression of dislike with skin color in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, that young boy is the complexion of me, if not darker than me. And if the person disliked their skin color so much, why didn't they lighten their skin? Why were they wearing an afro? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not consistent with somebody who dislikes their skin color. This person has dark skin, and people who usually don't like their skin color, they change it. To tell you the truth, they make their skin lighter. They bleach their skin. We don't see that. And we don't see the person like with a hairstyle that's similar to a Caucasian. if we were truly talking about self-hate, there would be indicators there, don't you think? There would be like signs that a person has tried to strip away some of their blackness, and there's no signs there. That person's skin is dark. That person is wearing an afro. Wearing an afro, that hairstyle is a pro-black. It's not pro-black, but it's an African black hairstyle. An afro is, hence afro, is black, a black hairstyle. You mean to tell me that this person has self-hate, but they are rocking an afro? What I think happened, ladies and gentlemen, I think this young man was in a space, what I think he was in a space online with a group of persons who he thought was his friends. And we understand that anyone can pretend online. And what I think happened was that he was in an online space where he was surrounded by intelligence officers that were masquerading as teenage boys. And these intelligence officers befriended this teenage boy and struck up a conversation with him and kept that conversation going and picked his brain about race and continued to pick his brain and saw his vulnerabilities, and so picked until they found vulnerabilities in this young man. And what they then did was they exploited those vulnerabilities. They exploited him. And I bet you the conversation went something like this. Well, you'll be really part of the cool kids table, or you'll be, really one of us, or, we'll really accept you if you do this. And so what he did was, to gain your acceptance, what he did was he went out and he did that just so he can be accepted by you, not knowing that the boys that he was communicating with were actually intelligence officers that were radicalizing him, that were seeking to push him into radicalization. So all the time he was communicating with a group of what he thought to be boys online, thought to be his peers. He was a young boy thinking that he was playing, I don't know what they play online. What do they do? Play video games or something? I don't know. They do something like that, right? I know that there's like these, I think, platforms where they stream all day and then they play video games. They're doing something like that. And I'm pretty sure that he was on something like that. And he was communicating with someone who he thought was a friend of his. And this alleged friend was steering him into radical. First, what they did to him was they groomed him and then steered him, shaped his thoughts and shaped his beliefs, morphed those beliefs, and pushed that young man into radicalization, ladies and gentlemen. And what that boy thought was that he was finally going to become part of a group of people that were actually seeking his demise the entire time. That's what I think happened. And that's why I'm calling this a crime of obedience. Because what I believe, ladies and gentlemen, is I believe that this harmful act that we've seen at the high school was committed by a subordinate in obedience to orders of a superior. I believe that this person was put up to doing this attack. I do not think that this boy acted alone. So I want to give you an example. So in a series of laboratory experiments, so there was this researcher, his name was Milgram, and he found that a majority, approximately 65% of apparently normal people could be induced to harm others if instructed to do so by a person of authority. And so again, he conducted this experiment, and I think you all remember that experiment. And I may link that experiment in this video below, where they were doing like these shocks, right? And I think they actually did a movie on this as well, where they were doing these shocks on people. And so the other person was behind, I think, the screen. And so the researcher was telling them, well, shock them. And the person would scream on the other side. And then the researcher would be like, okay, issue a stronger shock, issue a stronger shock, issue a stronger shock. And so they were doing that because because a person, they were being told by an authority figure. Some people were doing it because they got a kick out of it. They were sadist. And then other people didn't do it. Some people walked out and they were like, no, I'm not going to do this. And so what I think it happened in this specific situation is similar to that experiment, is that you had an authority figure that was instructing this boy to commit an act of violence. And he did it on the behalf of that superior in order to gain their friendship, in order to gain their trust, in order to be perceived as cool, in order to be perceived as smart or confident or brave or strong, whatever you can insert in there. I believe he did that to please someone else. So I also believe that this wasn't the first act, ladies and gentlemen, that this young boy committed for a superior. I think that, again, remember what I said, I think that he was groomed and he probably committed less serious acts before that serious act. And so he probably committed a less serious act to show that he could be trusted, or that he, was in that he was all in, that he would do exactly what they asked him to do. And then they asked him to do this bigger act. Because research shows that once an individual or group has committed their first crime of obedience, they have been entrapped in continuing to obey. So there is a likelihood that there was, a crime that occurred before this one. And it was probably like a small act. And once he did that act, then the authority figures manipulated him into committing a larger act. They probably gave him a pat on his shoulder and was like, "You did good on your first act. Like, you did good, but now we need you to do this one. We need you to actually do this one, and you'll really be one of us, or you'll really be part of the cool kids, or you'll really be, you know, part of this group if you do this." And that's what I think happened. That's what I think happened. So, do you remember when I was talking about moral panic and uh, the folk devils? So, I'm pretty sure that we all know what that is, and I probably will do a video on that, like explaining what moral panics is, just kind of like an educational video, or uh, tying moral panics to folk devils in another video. I won't do it in this video. I think this video is going on long enough, but there is something that I want to read. And so I believe, again, that there was a criminal mastermind behind this incident. And so I want to read a little bit about the criminal mastermind who I believe was really behind this incident. And then I want to read a little bit about the conformer, or the follower, who I think the perpetrator is. So, in all forms of collective violence, there usually is one central leader, the main initiating figure in the criminal conduct, who commits or initiates the crime by his own accord and holds a position of power. This leader is usually the head of state, but can also be the head of a specific organization, such as an army or police or a powerful department like the Secret Service. He is the undisputed powerful leader. These perpetrators are almost exclusively male, with strong leadership capabilities, a very manipulative character, and often, albeit not always, a hypnotic or charismatic appeal. Is any of that matching what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? Like, I think that this was a person who saw someone at a vulnerable point in their life, swooped in and befriended this young boy and radicalized him. And I will go further to to support my argument. I'm going to go a little bit further. For some, so they are very authoritarian, anti-democratic, extremely vain and arrogant, accept no criticism, believe themselves to be infallible, and ultimately come to feel that they have a divine right to rule. They are ruthless, harsh, cruel, and merciless, and do whatever they deem fit to stay in control. They strive for absolute power and complete control. The stronger their influence, the more self confident they become, and the more they believe in their own ideas. These perpetrators can be considered the criminal masterminds. For some leaders, the use of violence is purely instrumental. They are power hungry and rely on force in order to stay in power. Other leaders, however, clearly have an evil and destructive nature. It is their aim to destroy and exterminate. And so they give a number of examples. And they say leaders are created and live by the amount of followers they manage to attract. The relationship between the charismatic leader and the follower is often, according to Post, essentially a relationship between a mirror hungry leader and an ideal hungry followers. The leader comes to be psychological rescue of their followers, and although they themselves are sometimes extremely suspicious. And so you kind of see, ladies and gentlemen, like these leaders are coming in and saying that they're going to be protecting these impressionable people. And their their modus operandi, ladies and gentlemen, is to find out what their vulnerabilities are, and then once they find out what their vulnerabilities are, right? They find out what their vulnerabilities are, then they uh, start like these conversion practices, and then once that is put into practice, then there is the adoption of this radicalized ideology. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything more. So the criminal mastermind knows that a common enemy binds people. The enemy can be blamed for all failures, and their presence justifies continuous use of violence and ultimate extermination. Ladies and gentlemen, you see how disturbing this is? They strive for power and control, or in some cases, for material gain and to become a hero. As most criminal masterminds are political opportunists, they are also skilled survivors, and they try to escape in time. So we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that you can kind of see, ladies and gentlemen, that that is deeply disturbing. And so this is what I think has happened. And so when we look, ladies and gentlemen, at the perpetrator, who in this case was what I believed just to be a follower or a conformist. So as I'm reading this, I'm seeing who I think this perpetrator is. And it says many perpetrators have no specific reason to commit a crime, but they are pushed toward doing it. With this type, we can distinguish several subtypes: the obedient follower, the naive follower, and the admirer. And so an obedient follower is usually very passive, in that the sense that he can be distinguished from the devoted warrior who usually occupies a higher position on the hierarchy in that ladder and takes far more initiative. So we know, ladies and gentlemen, that this young boy didn't have any rank in any political group. He wasn't part, he may have felt that he was part of this political group or this group of individuals that were anti-Black, but we know that he was really lower on the totem pole. He only takes action. So listen to this. He only takes action or initiative if he is specifically asked to do so. That's what I think happened, ladies and gentlemen. I think he took action because someone asked him to do that. Obedient followers might feel empathy for specific victims, but they take the righteousness of the decision of their superiors for granted. A final point is that in times of crisis, psychologically healthy personalities can feel vulnerable and fall prey to a charismatic leader to whom they submit. They are simply overwhelmed by uncertainty. And the security of a group or mass movement with a directive leader makes them feel secure again and is therefore considered psychologically attractive. Ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what I'm saying this entire time. Let me read that again. Obedient followers might feel some empathy for the victims, but they take the righteousness of the decision of their superiors for granted. A final point is that in times of crisis, psychologically healthy personalities can feel vulnerable and fall prey to a charismatic leader to whom they submit. They are simply overwhelmed by uncertainty, and the security of a group or mass movement with a directive leader makes them feel secure again and is therefore considered psychologically attractive. So if we are to believe that this person did not like himself because he was Black, if that is the narrative that the US government is putting out there, then we must believe that there was a group of people who were non-Blacks that radicalized him, and a group of non-Blacks who had a extremist ideology. And we must also believe that there is a leader that persuaded this young man into radicalization. Because there is not going to be, I would agree, ladies and gentlemen, yes, there are times when people are going to feel self-hate and they are not going to like themselves. So that may be body dysmorphia, right? They feel dysmorphic about like how they look, and some of that has to do with race as well. But will they go the extreme lengths of harming people that didn't do anything to them, that didn't betray them, that didn't hurt them? And what I believe is I believe that there is a toxic authority figure sitting at the very top that befriended, to reiterate, that befriended this young boy. And I'm not condoning his actions. My position is always going to be standing for the children and protecting the children. And incidents like this makes children afraid to go to school. Incidents like this makes me afraid to actually go to school, ladies and gentlemen. I have to tell you the truth. When I see these incidents happening, even though I'm in Belfast, I'm like, one day if I'm, on the computer, like, is something like this going to happen? Like, ladies and gentlemen, I have to be honest with you. As a student in a university, I had played out scenarios in my head to where if an incident happened like this, and I'm in school, like, how am I going to like block the door? How am I going to lock the door? Where am I going to hide so the person doesn't see me? Like, how can I keep myself quiet? Like, how can I turn the phone off? Like, should I call my parents and say, like, not my parents, but my mom and my sister, should I call my family and tell them like what's happening? Like, what is the best course of action? Ladies, I played all these scenarios in my head, being afraid of an incident like this happening where I go by somebody who one day is either radicalized or somebody who just can't deal with life. And I'm scared about that. I'm scared that that would happen to children in the United States, that this is continuing to happen, that the United States has not got a grip on this epidemic. I am concerned that, these incidents may cause other people to copy it. It's deeply concerning. It's frightening. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see if there's anything else. So these types of perpetrators can, however, also become physical perpetrators, especially when they are members of a militarized unit. And so let's see if there's any other. When followers and conformists will get involved in crime under ordinary circumstances, whether followers
and the conformists will get involved in crime under ordinary circumstances depends very much on the circumstances and the groups they become or a member of. Under ordinary circumstances, however, there are often many more options and alternatives. These people might switch groups in time and are thus less likely to get involved with the wrong groups. However, in an oppressive state or military unit, it is much more difficult to defect, and the followers and conformers are much more likely to get involved in committing crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I think happened. My mind is made up until there is other evidence to contradict me. I think that this young boy in Nashville, Tennessee was radicalized by the state. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that it was a group of anti-Black, because you can only be anti-Black to do something like this. So it was a group of anti-Black military officials or intelligence officials with considerable power. And what they did, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just repeating this so you can kind of understand how this went, is that they saw an impressionable young man online who was already struggling with self-identity issues, disliking himself, feeling down, if that is what truly happened. And what they did is they capitalized on that. They groomed that young man, befriended him. They probably even put money on his YouTube accounts. I don't know what kind of accounts he was. I don't know if he was on like streaming accounts. I don't know which ones, but they probably helped him financially. And then it was quid pro quo. And so after they helped him financially, they asked him to do acts for them. And those acts, ladies and gentlemen, were probably, it started out small. So they probably asked him to do something very small, like harm an animal or something. And then as they saw that he was easily manipulated and easy to mold, then they asked him to do bigger things and then bigger things, and until it came to this incident that we've seen at this high school. And some people get it. I hear that some people are calling this COINTELPRO, the amazing Lucas. I watch his show and he has a lot of his videos are very reasoned. And I don't agree with everything that he says, but there is some things that the amazing Lucas says that makes a lot of sense. And he has identified this as COINTELPRO. And I would argue that this may be COINTELPRO in a sense, that he's partly correct about that. It's not entirely COINTELPRO because I just think the name in and of itself is an oxymoron, I think, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, it's an oxymoron, ladies and gentlemen. The name in itself is an oxymoron. COINTELPRO, counterintelligence. Like basically, counterintelligence is supposed to be you're trying to catch treasonous acts or espionage, and to identify that, right, within the nation. But you're not doing that if you are marking impressionable people and pushing them toward radicalization. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a state crime. And when impressionable people act on those orders, those are crimes of obedience. So what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong about this? Do you think that I have it wrong? Do you think that this person was a lone wolf and that they acted alone? Or do you think that this person was part of a larger network, that there was part of a larger group of people? Do you think this group of people were white nationalists or white supremacists? Or do you think that they were intelligence agencies? Or do you think that they were just friends that were trying to see how far that they could push a person? What is the solution to these acts? If the state is indeed pushing American citizens to commit acts of extremism, and that seems to be the consensus from independent media, that most individuals in independent media believe that this is coming from, these acts that we are seeing that are just not adding up, is coming from the United States government. And while we do appreciate that there is information out there that helps us to understand or attempt to understand how these acts occur, it is important to say, ladies and gentlemen, that the information that's being put out in the public should not be fabricated and manufactured to push a particular narrative that specific people are threats to national security. There's not a pattern in a practice to substantiate what we've seen or what we've been hearing over the past week. And to reiterate, that's not my condoning this practice. I condemn all acts of violence. But that does not mean that when I condemn acts of violence, I can't think for myself. And I can't rationalize and, not rationalize, but reason and interpret and analyze the facts in front of me. And that's what I did. And what I come to understand is that this was a state crime, that an impressionable person was pushed into radicalization by the state. I don't think Candace Owens had anything to do with this. I don't think that Mr. Beast had anything to do with this. I don't think that, no, I can't comment on the other people because I really don't know those other names and I haven't watched their content. But the name that he specifically stated that pushed him to commit these acts of violence, or this act of violence, was Candace Owens. And ladies and gentlemen, Candace Owens, it doesn't have violent content. A lot of her content is speaking about relationships and celebrity gossip. And yes, she does speak about politics. And yes, she does go in on political figures. But is that violent? You be the judge. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Quianna Canada show. I will try and bring another one of these videos very soon. Maybe I will do a series called Habeas Corpus, where I talk about specific topics like this. I've been thinking about that, to do a series of where there isn't really a body for us to make an informed judgment on. We just have images of people, and we don't have family members speaking out. We just have the state's word and images and a narrative and a manifesto, and we're supposed to agree with that. I might do a deep dive on this series, or I might do a deep dive and create a series of it. I might do that. Until next time, bye-bye.